Welcome back, everyone, and thanks again for joining us. This morning, we learned a child hospitalized with measles has died in West Texas. The outbreak in that area is growing, with the state confirming just yesterday that the case count climbed to 124 across 9 counties. This is reviving conversations about how people can best protect themselves from the measles.
Today, we're going to focus on prevention and staying safe. So joining us today is guest Angela Solis. She's a pharmacist with Martin's Wellness and Compounding Pharmacy. Angela, thank you so much for being here.
Glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
We know measles is just a highly contagious respiratory illness. We mentioned the death tied to this outbreak is the first. I think it puts into perspective for a lot of us the seriousness of this outbreak. What would you like people to know about this illness and just how serious it can be?
Measles is the most contagious respiratory illness that exists. It's highly contagious. If a person who has measles, and perhaps they don't even know yet that they have the measles, is in a room, the virus lives in that room for 2 hours after the person departs that room. So you can walk into a room and not even know you've been exposed due to the highly contagious nature. The disease is serious, and it can cause serious illness, especially in young persons or older people.
Thank you so much for sharing that information. I think that's very important for everyone to hear at home. Turning to another topic, though, the state does say that the 2 doses of vaccine against measles is the best way for people to avoid getting sick. How effective is the vaccine, and are you seeing more interest in people potentially wanting to get that shot since this outbreak has begun?
Yes, we're seeing increased interest at both of our pharmacies. We've had people coming in to get it. The live vaccine has been available since 1963, and it is the one that is most effective. 2 doses protect people about 95 to 98% against ever contracting the measles.
We know many people receive this when they're very young, and so if someone is thinking, gosh, did I get that as a child? I can't remember. Is there a way to confirm whether you've received this vaccine, and what do you recommend to people who just might not be sure?
Well, since 1963, there were 2 different vaccines, a live one and a killed vaccine. The killed vaccine is not effective. So if you have your own vaccine record, we can look at it and determine if you got 2 doses of live. If you did not get 2 doses of live, or if you don't know what you got, then you might be partially unvaccinated, and at least 1 dose of an updated, inactivated live measles vaccine is recommended.
All right, and so if someone, let's say, got the vaccine already, and they may be wondering now that they're older, is another shot recommended or even a booster? What would you tell people about that?
After they've confirmed that they had 2 live doses, it's not necessary to get a 3rd dose except in very rare circumstances, such as health professionals that are frequently being exposed, or international travelers are recommended potentially, depending on the circumstances, to get a 3rd dose.
We talk a lot here about the flu vaccine, in recent years, of course, the COVID vaccine. What about the measles vaccine do you think people maybe misunderstand? Is it a little bit less common for people to know what's necessary to be protected?
Well, measles was essentially eradicated in the United States until recently. There was one outbreak of about 1,000 people around the year 2000, but since then it's been considered eradicated. That outbreak, I think, was in Dallas, centered in Dallas, if I recall. But this outbreak with 124 people is the first time measles has circulated in the United States. So many people don't get the vaccine because they perceive that there is not a need for the vaccine.
And in our remaining time, what would you say to somebody who's interested in getting the vaccine or wanting to find out some more information about where to go to do that?
Well, Martin's Wellness and Compounding Pharmacies is comprised of Lamar Plaza Drugstore and Dripping Springs Pharmacy, 2 pharmacies. You can call or go to any of our pharmacies and speak with any one of the 5 pharmacists. I'm one of those at those locations. And we can very specifically, based on what your vaccine records or what you don't know about your vaccine status, recommend for you specifically whether you need it. Persons born before 1957 are considered by the CDC to already be immune because of how widespread measles was back in that day. So persons before 57, studies have shown that 95 to 98% of them are still considered immune. So persons born before 1957 may not need an additional dose unless they're international travelers or health professionals.
Angela, it's such great information.
Absolutely.
Thank you for being here. And just to remind you all, as she said, she is one of the pharmacists who you can speak to if you reach out to Martin's. And thank you so much for the context.
You're welcome. Consult your doctor or your pharmacist, your physician, your pediatrician, your pharmacist. All of those people are knowledgeable and can advise you about whether to get a dose, an additional dose.
Angela Solis, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll be right back after the break.
Thank you for having me.